Tuesday, June 3rd, special call meeting of the Stanley County Board of Education. Um, Thank you, those of you who are here today. We appreciate you coming. We know the space is limited, but due to what all we needed to have hooked up technology-wise, this was where we needed to have our meeting for today. But we do appreciate you coming. It is live stream, so we have people who are able to watch that were not able to be here today due to a 4 o'clock time. We are under some strict time constraints today because we do have an additional meeting at 6:15. We'll need to be out of here at 5:45 in order to be there. I remind the public that because we won't have time for you to interject, and I know sometimes we allow that during our meetings, but we won't have time for that today. We're going to need to move around fairly quickly if we can. First on our agenda is approval of the agenda. If I can have a motion to approve the agenda as presented. Motion to approve by Ms. Gibson, a second. Second by Mr. Swanson. All those in favor say aye. All opposed, no. Agenda is approved. Next on our agenda is invocation. If you'll all just bow your heads. Dear Lord, we thank you for this day. We thank you for bringing us here together. Lord, as we begin this special meeting, just ask for your guidance, Lord, and your wisdom. We ask you to help us to listen with open hearts, Lord, that we'll speak with kindness and will act with integrity. May our decisions reflect respect for one another and a deep commitment to those who we are here to serve, which are our students, our staff, and the families of our school system. Lord, we ask all this in your name. Amen. Yeah. So next on our agenda is Mosley Architect. You have information in your packet, and it was on board docs for you to be able to look. I don't know how you guys want to do this. If you want to just give a presentation to us, that would be great. And then if the board has any questions, we'll go that route.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
Very good. So let's see. The facilities committee stand up or
however you want to do it.
And I forget who was in the room at the time, but I guess I'll just walk through our proposal. Is this what y'all have?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. So you should have a March 31st on it. And basically, in working with Dr. Dennis, down into 2 phases. So phase 1 would be focusing on the west side school. So studying West Stanley High School, West Stanley Middle, Indy, Locust, Duckboro, and Stanfield. And that would be involving architectural and civil field work at each of the schools. And then on your facilities group for mechanical, electrical, plumbing, backgrounds and histories, incorporate that information into our analysis, and then pull all that together into some scenario options. And actually, I wanted to hear what your next presentation is. I might stick around for that if you'll let me.
Perfect.
Hear what the demographics are looking like, and then pull that together before the end of the month. That's about 3 weeks now. We started talking about this back in November. So that's been 7 months. And I think y'all know my situation, but I'm going to be retiring on July 1st. So I would love to stay engaged with the phase 1 and just bust it and get that done. And actually we kick in with the needs-based grant part of it on the pro side. And then phase 2, optional, is to then focus on the high schools. That would be Ashley and friends working on that. Doing community engagement, leadership engagement with commissioners and whatnot. And then again, this is a draft. This is what kind of what we heard and understood, and certainly can be tweaked. And then there's scenarios and developments for kind of the high schools, capacity wise and condition wise and facility wise. So that's basically it in a nutshell. In terms of costs, phase 1, we are proposing right at $96,000. And phase 2 is right at right around 75. And I think y'all, I think you can do phase 1 and phase 2, or just either one or the other. Be happy to take questions.
I know that what you have presented here seems to be a continuation of what we've been doing for, oh my goodness, years, right? Justin, I mean, it's gone way back to 2022, whatever, where we have been in discussions with not only our board, but our commissioners as well. And, you know, we recently just received something from them that they wanted um, some more input, some more work. Um, and it looks like everything that you're providing here is what they are asking for, which I am glad to see that. Seems like every time we met, Ms. Poplin, I know, was served on the committee, you know, at one time meeting. You know, we always heard we want to hear, you know, more research, more work. And so this really breaks things down where I believe what all they are asking for through our facilities, everything we're doing, your votes too. And it's going to tie in, I think, greatly with Mr. Miller's presentation as well.
Excellent.
We're very interested in wanting to get started with the needs based. Yeah, they want a comprehensive plan, and I think you are doing, you know, really a very
It's I would call it a focused and strategic look at the priorities. The priority
yes.
areas. In phase one, I get you to the needs-based grant application. There's potential summer money going from.
Right.
Well, and
I kind of like where it's coming.
it'll give you a lot of backing, because I know that you can go to your commissioners, there's obviously the 5% match that's gonna be required, and so having that backing to understand why the priorities have been set, how they've been set, is gonna be a huge part of that conversation to then be able to all feel confident as the grant goes together.
And I think the
I
huge.
have a question.
Go ahead, Miss Almond.
In this study, since I, you know, obviously I've been older, you know, is this going to be something that the commission with a comprehensive plan?
I think. I guess maybe.
Is that for the architects or is that for your question? Really both. Whatever wants to answer. Because, you know, if this is something that is so detailed, which I'm working on right now, I feel like it's something that we can present to the commissioners and have them look over it and satisfy what they were asking for. And this is something that architects are willing to do as well.
We believe that phase one is enough to get commissioners satisfied, or give them the potential to be satisfied and pursue the needs-based grant. That's what
I think that was the initial focus is the needs-based grant. The, as we understand it, the state started awarding to tier 2 counties last year. The commission board has signed off before starting in 22 on various projects. And in lieu of an initial across the county study, again, the third major comprehensive study of the last 20 years with no action. This was more, as you mentioned, Bill, more focused and strategic, initially built around the needs-based grant, good for the taxpayer at a 5% match. You know, we have the Oakboro building literally falling down. Fire egresses, we found more issues out there. We know that the middle school needs an addition of something that I think Carla might have been facilities chair then. We discussed it with the county manager a couple of years ago, needing an addition at middle school. And then we learned that late last year that we can include a high school project. We can really combine multiple projects to get the top grant. So that's sort of where the help comes with the architect firm and helping us out. The primary concern being an alleviating the crowd. And then that was a start.
Wow.
And then in coordination with Mr. Miller's high school study, we've got the first study on the elementary schools really across the district back in 22, that then we could blend that information with phase 2 and Ashley at that point to see how we could best move forward with other facilities across the county.
Well, could you, I know that this information is available online, so anybody, the public can see this, but for people who haven't had the ability to look at this, and even people who are just watching the live stream that haven't had the opportunity to go online, can you just give just a real quick synopsis of what, I know you listed the schools that I would cover, But can you also just tell them so they know kind of that,
What we're gonna do.
yes,
in order to-
yes, just,
It was a little too high. Okay, so we're gonna do the facility evaluations, which is gonna be architectural and civil engineering, so site engineers, and we're gonna look at the fields and parking lots and lighting and utilities and things like that. And then architecturally, I'm gonna be looking at the size, the capacity, the number of classrooms, how big they are, these center cafeteria, all those things. Figure out what the capacities are, whether they're underutilized or overutilized, and just looking for the truth. Evaluate from aesthetics and general kind of educational environment. How does it feel? Is it appropriate? Will I send my kids there? General ADA compliance, code issues, school safety issues. I'm a big school safety guy. The layout, how flexible is it? What is the potential for expansion if that's appropriate? Or and then touched on the broad educational adequacy for 21st century learning. Talked about site elements, the materials, the flooring, the ceiling. We're going to get information on the systems from heating and the envelope, like so the windows, the walls, the insulation, all those kinds of things. What else here? And then Mr. Miller's going to provide us, or I'm going to get some graphic we can synthesize and run through all this data to come up with our scenarios. So scenarios would be, hey, let's renovate this, that, and the other thing, add on to it, think about travel distances in terms of busing and things like that, transportation types of things. And we'll provide, what I like to do is at least 3 scenarios. One is the least expensive, or something that's the most expensive and the best, and then something in the middle. And then there may be some variations of all of the above. And then we'll provide some cost estimates, big round, kind of decision-making numbers, and some implementation schedules. So basically just big overview. So we're going to start design for these 9 months, get it for these couple months, build it for these 1 or 2 years, and map it all out and line things up so we can hopefully spend the money smooth way, help keep the cash flow, and work with your finance folks on that. And then Ashley's going to talk about the space grant.
Yes, we'll take all of that information, synthesize it down into the application process, work with staff and anybody who wants to be involved, just kind of the narrative. Take as much feedback as possible because it's really a storytelling exercise of providing the best backing for the priority project. We'll have photos, we'll have all of the data that then gets folded into that, along with some other pieces that we have found that have been advantageous for the application process. And then hand that over for signatures, and that gets sent in from the county. So.
And one of the key activities that is going to be part of this is we call it a design charrette or a consensus workshop. So we will offer down probably at the Commons, somewhere in a big room or the library somewhere, and we'll have 6 or 7 architects and engineers locked for a couple of days. We will literally start with a blank sheet of paper and design that, whatever that priority is in those couple of days, and give that application the best chance of life.
Yeah, to give some graphics to ideas that this is feasible, and not just, we sure wish we could do X. Right.
So back when we were first talking with the commissioners in 2022, skip the reference. They wanted like a 5-year, 10-year long-term plan. I think this is kind of the beginnings of some of that and some of the more detailed items. Well, when you say phase 1, the western side, one side, we are not including equity mortgage trust in that.
That was partly.
So the western school's minus those 2
Yes,
sites. That.
you don't mind me interjecting.
Yeah.
This ties directly together our presentation.
Yeah.
Long range plan. The rest is left out of that 153 kids that attended school this year, but the numbers.
Right.
So I'm going to say right now, the numbers, we're doing data-driven decision making. I can't support any of this until the numbers reflect accurately who's in what school. Talking about there's 550 kids. When your project shows 403, I think. It's 150 kids gonna disappear, spent for what? Stuff like, I got some other issues too, the Ridgecrest thing. The last I heard, the deed issue is they clear it up, it's not completely decided against us. Why are we not keeping that piece of property in math when we're not spending $100,000?
Well, and Aquil's in
Based-
there.
Yeah,
The first phase is built around the, how I understood it. The first phase is built around the grant. And most of that grant would be encompassing of the school building itself and replacing that school building on the campus. So
totally approved that, and I'm 100% for grant, applying for a grant to expand West Middle. We're over capacity there already. But when we start looking at elementary schools that are not 110 years old, like several others in the county, why are we not looking at the greatest needs? And that same study that was on the late part of the presentation shows Albemarle's density, population density. If we're going to focus, why are we not focusing all of our energy on the greatest need, the greatest density, and the greatest capacity issues? Now, I feel like this is my job is separated with target. I think we got target fixation. We have to do this. We have to do this. Well, the real issues are everywhere. Why are we focusing on revenue? And I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not voting for anything that doesn't include Ridgecrest until we know. You cannot have Ridgecrest. You can't have that John They can, because there's a strong push in the public against it. Now, I'm not molesting it. $100,000, no reflection on y'all. But if we're going to do $100,000 for one section of the county, which looks like to me, I
I would disagree with that. We're overcrowded. We're 113% of the middle school. We're overcrowded at our elementary schools. We've all voted to approve the Oprah addition renovations. I believe Mr. Benton found some more issues on the backside, so there's $30,000 of lumber up front to create 2 fire egresses, so when the building falls down, the kids can get out. So we know we have a western end crowding problem that you've agreed with. So I think the matter of keeping the taxpayer in mind and how can we best apply for the grant monies and where is the highest need. Right now, it's been a consensus of the entire board that it's been on the western end crowding. There are needs extensive across, and I agree with you on Albemarle.
we just spent
My understanding that phase 2 addresses all of that.
we just spent $4 million of county money to expand in the 10 classroom. Right. That buys us time on K-5 issues in the West End. Painful as it is.
Stanfield grew 25% in 3 years between our 2 studies. It does buy us time. It buys us time because we got to 95% to get all this done. Apply for the grant, work with the architect to get the studies, to go to the commissioners to get the funding. Unless they ask for a bond, they don't have the capital reserves to go across the county and spend several $100 million renovating. So it's going to have to be in coordination with what's their ability to fund over time, and a cohesive plan that the 2 boards can come together. And it is going to start at the highest needs. And right now, you do have needs at the high school level. I think that we will address those, and then the western end crowd.
What's the capacity at Aquil?
Look at that. How many is a home?
No, how many are here?
Home says 100. You got 346 there. Where this is the month.
That's not with new company.
Well, we don't think there's so many big increases.
I'm gonna step back. I want the grant money too. If we think it's free money, it's not state money, but it's still our tax law. But you'd love delighted to say it sounds only like 95%. But when you look, I look at your long range plan, we start talking about closing schools, shoving kids halfway across the county. It seems to me, this is my perspective, my personal opinion, unofficial opinion. West End is gonna get off the radio. Anybody else is listening to me. I ain't for that. Just gonna put that out there right now.
Just trying to figure out where we're spending $96,000 and not two other sites in phase one that could potentially
Affect the
be
outcome.
of the phase one part of this scope. Because when the commissioners ask us for a comprehensive western side, it's like we want two pieces of it out.
It's all built around the grant. So you've got 42 million, 52 million, and $62 million grants, 3 levels.
But the grant's not paying for any of this.
And what's this?
The 96,000.
$96,000, $96,000.
Correct. To Bill's point, it's a return of the taxpayer dollars. So it's either we as a board want to try to access that money and address some of our needs, or we can just, I'm not either. I thought we were all for it. So then it comes down to how are we going to allocate 42 to $62 million? And right now it's been the consensus of all of the board, and your time as chair, your time as facility chair, even Mr. Sorensen, we agree on a lot of different things, that we've had the western end crowding and that we need to replace the Oakboro school that's falling down. And to my knowledge, no one has disagreed with Ridgecrest. So I'm totally in agreement that the community uses that facility.
Long-term plan, which is a consolidation plan, then that's like.
I don't think it's a plan. I think it's a study that Mr. Miller has presented to the committee that's coming to present to the board. So don't present it as if the board has voted on a plan. It's information that the board is going to review.
It's the western end city of only specific western end schools and sites. I think that's where I have the issue. It's like if we add the other two in there, even if they're not in the needs-based grant, if we're going to spend almost $100,000 on a western side study, I would like for it to include all of the properties in the western end that could potentially alleviate the western end.
Currently, Ridgecrest is not a school that is being used as a school. It's being used where we have the wrestling team of the largest high school in the county is wrestling in the cafeteria of a closed building. Right. That ought to be the question I would say the board should ask is why? Why do we have an auditorium at West County High School, unlike many of our high school facilities, that you can stick your arm through the load bearing wall? The same things are happening there. I agree. I think Albemarle, just as you do, there needs to be some consolidation in Albemarle.
Don't put words in my mouth. I didn't say that.
You've written that in the Stanley News and Press
Yeah, but I
before.
mean,
So you've agreed with that. Your time as facility chair, and your time as the chair of the board. So I'm just reading. I'm only, you say don't put words in your mouth. I'm repeating what you put in the Stanley News and Press. That's what you stated. So you agreed with that, and now you've changed your position, which is okay. But you've been for consolidation. We want to address it.
Well, when we first started with this and those meetings, it's been several years ago, the plan was, and this was a plan, that East was going to close. Okay, that was the plan. East was going to close. The students at East Albemarle were going to move to Albemarle Middle. Albemarle Middle students were going to move to Albemarle High School. That was the plan. Okay, and
I know that was
Found out-
talked about at one time.
well,
So-
that was
And then
mentioned,
did she
and
talk about these, covering, going on these, reading these, and then we found that these have foundational issues. There've been lots of
Right.
plans
yeah.
discussed and talked about.
Well, and
With
this
no
was the
action.
one, and this was the
Right,
one of
and
the
that's
last
what
ones, I think, at our joint meeting with the commissioners, where all this was put out there with them. And I remember which was good what you said when you said, we've done our work. Y'all haven't done anything. The commissioners are showing us you haven't done a thing. We've done all of ours. The commissioners have done nothing. So now I feel like through everything that we're doing here and a continuation of this, we're getting into what they really want to see. And they want to see this full, they want to see more. They just want to see our idea. It's not our idea of, hey, you're gonna close these, come wrong. That's our idea. They need to see what, through all of this scope, with what you're doing, everything that comes back, then what are the decisions that are made? And it ties in with already the numeric study, which was started way back, what, 2 years ago we studied with the numeric study, with the demographic study. And now, because commissioners have wanted us to continue with that, we continue with that as well. And now it seems like to me, it's a real, I can see how this is starting to blend together with what your task is and all of our facilities and needs-based grant, and then with what Mr. Miller has as well. Seems like we're coming together with that plan that our commissioners are wanting to see. And we sit down with them. As you said, we sat down with them. Okay.
To the rest of the board and to the architect, because if we're going to talk about doing what our commissioners asked, our commissioners just asked us last week when we met with them what our plans were for Ridgecrest. So if we're going to do a Western End, I agree. We need to do some things that include Ridgecrest. So my question to the architect is why did we not include that? Was this a committee decision? What's the answer to that?
It was a committee decision. I was instructed by the committee.
And I think you also know we don't even know what's happening with Chris.
We don't own half of
We
the
don't own
property.
half of it.
So,
And we're happy to do anything.
and this board has taken action in my
Yes.
time to resolve that issue.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
It's been an issue for many years. You know,
How
don't like
many,
these
how
people.
many, how many students that are active with STEM?
Quite done. If I can finish, please. Go ahead. So, the committee requested that Ridgecrest or even Aqua not be included. I would like to make it a note now for the public to hear that I would like to request that that actually be included into the phase, so we can actually bring these answers back to the commissioners because this is due to sign off this evening. So why not?
I guess my question is, how do you go when we don't own a school? How do you do that?
Property or buildings that on this property.
Only one.
Buildings that on that property.
Do we own all of it?
No, we don't, because the building, only one building sits on the school property. The other ones runs through half of the back building, and the gym is on the family's property. So that's an incorrect statement.
Yeah.
It is publicly, everyone can pull it up and look at it.
States that it is Stanley County Schools property as long as it's used for educational purposes. That is what the deed states.
We can look at anything as long as there's permission.
They're in permission by the family. It's a 100-year-old deed that gives us permission.
It's gonna raise the price.
Yes.
The price of their property.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Right. I guess I'd kind of go back to Aquadale. Ridgecrest, I can see that. Aquadale, not so much, only because we're only pulling that small little portion of Oakburg into Aquadale. So I don't really consider Aquadale a Western End school. That's just how I look at it. I don't know how many students we actually have there that.
That's
Right.
not-
And I know we've talked about pulling that line.
Well, part of the study too, kind of to update Bill and Ashley, is we had numerous look at Ridgecrest being a school. And it did not make sense to be a districted school where we have to provide transportation. It's a smaller building. We have had a quote from Pinnacle Architecture before, on what it would take to renovate that. But the demographic study, conclusions and recommendation from Numerax didn't support that being a district school versus looking at Oakboro, where we own the land, where there's plenty of that, where there is a municipality that provides an SRO, where we're off the highway, it's easy in, easy out, where we have a concentration students and people. So our efficiencies go up, cost efficiencies go up, transportation efficiencies go up. And so if we've got one shot at the grant application for, say, 42 million for one elementary school, or possibly upwards of 62 million that may include a middle school or high school project, that's where we need your help to say, do we just go for the elementary? But we know that Western End Elementary is highly important. Looking at the two options and the data that was presented, it was overwhelmingly in favor of an Oakboro. And so to us at this point, as we were being very tactical, very mindful of the taxpayer dollars, that we would address things in phases. And right now, if we took one shot to get one school, the board has determined that Oakboro would be that.
I think
And,
Oakboro's
and
the
that's where
lowest.
we need to address. And so the only reason that the other middle school and high school was included is just to say, well, can we get 62 million out of the grant? Take a look at it. If not, if we're better off and can be more successful by just getting Oakboro, that's where we need your recommendation. And so that's what led it to a phase one to include those specific Western End schools. Data back.
And that is the priority school that we know we need a replacement for.
So. But the gut feeling I get is, no matter how this goes, if you studied every school, every site in the county, the full county thing, the number would be a big number. You're not gonna get that. You're not gonna get everything. If you did all that, you still have to prioritize. And
That's
probably
right.
come back and say, whichever school we're talking about. And so I think this is a good, the start.
That's a start.
It's appropriate. I like the word tactical, start.
Mhm.
You're not gonna get everything. If you
We
want to
know
get something,
that.
if you want to get something, you gotta do something.
We want to get something. That's the thing. So let's say we would look at Ridgecrest. Would you come back to us with a number that says, if you want to open this school, this is what it's going to cost you? So you look at it, so you look at everything out there from all the, just everything that is from all the others.
I'm okay with that.
I feel like we need to.
Yeah,
I think
that's
if we
fine.
don't, the commissioners are gonna go
Yeah.
back to your question and say, what about Ridgecrest? So why don't we have someone doing all these other schools? Why not do that school?
That's what
And when the deed is straightened out, we know he's already done the study, and that way we can move forward with it.
What is that previous? From that other?
The first one, he presented it in June of 23, but it's on the 22 school year.
So it's a couple.
And then the last one was just presented, based on the 24 school year. So 3 school years. Yeah, so it's really fresh.
You can take a look at that and either tune it up, or, give an opinion on it. And if very little, we can do it ourselves.
And to Mrs. Poplin and Mr. Sorensen's point, I mean, the community uses that Ridgecrest campus. I mean, we have red cleats in the basketball gym, red cleats on the softball field. Again, it's disappointing that the largest high school in our county, the wrestling team, is wrestling in the cafeteria of a closed elementary school. And that ought to be the question that everyone is asking. Why?
So if you have Ridgecrest, it'll bring your total up to 1 and 5. Really?
So 9 grand.
No. It's 9420 is still big. Look at that. If I really did the math, it might be different.
I just feel like, I know they brought it up, I know the community's brought it up, I know it's been a question of contention for many years. If we're going to go down the route of evaluating schools, I don't know that. That's why I had to ask about the 2 not being in there. I feel like Ridgecrest definitely needs to be included. The other one, I guess it would be in a different phase if we evaluated the other areas of the county. I just was trying to figure out what I was saying.
And am I jumping ahead to your, where you have the timeline of when you can get these done? I know it seems like we're already behind.
It's on page,
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I got it, that last page.
started in April.
Right, so we're a month
Two
or
months.
more, okay, um,
It's June.
so I would like to just ask, like, how soon, I know this has got to be very intense work on the ground constantly here. And I know that we are wanting to have that lead space grant prepared, as I see here on yours for July, August.
And that's converted. That could be August, September, I think.
And it really just depends. We don't know. We'd like to aim for July because we know that's usually when they're gonna issue the application.
Right,
The application window is wrapped up in September. Sometimes it's wrapped up in.
It's all over the place.
So I would like to be conservative because I don't want to put the district in a situation where we're trying to scramble because they make it the smallest window they've ever.
or,
I think what we can say about the schedule is we would love to have had this schedule. We know that it's not a reality now. We often get put into this situation
okay,
because these are big decisions that have to be made. And so we can make this schedule work. We're just gonna look at we're gonna look at our last delivery, right?
Right.
And we're gonna make it all fit in. One silver lining is students are out of schools.
that's
We
right.
can move faster.
Right, yeah.
So, I'm really, or I am concerned that we can make this work, but we will implore the board to say, can't go much further than this, or we will run out of time,
Right.
because it will be July, and then
Right.
it will be time to do the
Right.
application and get the data. So,
I might start on Thursday,
Oh,
literally.
a conversation with our rep in Raleigh said, that things, the school-based grants, whatever, has not been very kind to Stanley County. And he knows that. He knows that we've been left out. And whether there's any, I just, not talking to them, I knew, telling him this was going to be well planned. Well,
I guess I'm gonna ask the elephant in the room type question. If this was prepared on March 31st, 2025, why was it just presented last week?
well, I have not had a meeting when I got the April 7th that had the, or April, whatever it was that had the,
April 8th, the
was it the
price.
pricing on it. I have not been able to have CRP meeting. I know we had one, but it was not where we could, time constraints, we could not even have one. And I think we were talking about trying to do a work session. The work session turned into being the Oprah meeting. So,
We didn't have one night in January.
right, and I couldn't even get the CIP meeting like now. So I felt it was best for the whole board, all of us to hear at one time, since we were running kind of close. It was hard just trying to schedule and hard trying to schedule some things here at the end of school.
It's just a lot to take in, ask questions, and then he wants to start Thursday. So I think.
But you see why you see. It was
But it's years
difficult
worth of
time.
conversations. Yeah.
Oh,
on-
it's
on
been
the same
conversations
grant
that have been, for a long, long time now.
You were chair when the last study was.
Right.
Yeah.
This was
It's
the
taken-
exact list we were looking at right now.
And vice chair when the first was ordered and chair of
Right.
the facilities committee.
You were on it.
Yeah, absolutely. We can talk about it for 3 years.
It seemed like again, I think we're doing a very, a more in-depth study because our last conversations that we had, this was last year in May with our county commissioners, it was going to go the route of two high schools. It was going to go the route of closing East Albemarle, moving those kids to the middle school, Albemarle High School students, all of that was going to somewhat be redistricted.
That was last year. Now I feel like we're in a much better place with your expertise and then the expertise as we continue with Mr. Miller and his numeric study. Now I feel like we're in a much better place to make decisions,
To have some data.
to have the data. That is absolutely it. And I don't want to be when someone's sitting on this board, that when we invest money in this, that we put the study on the shelf and it stays on the shelf for 25 years.
So we're
So
admittedly
that's what's
saying
happening. That's what's happening.
last time the focus was out more on that, the focus is less.
No,
That was my point earlier.
No, yes, you just said that.
no, the focus was too high school.
You literally just said, last study, the focus was Albemarle, the shifts in Albemarle, and this one, the focus is in West Stanley.
No, the focus has always been West Stanley. It has always been West Stanley with Oak Grove and True. I mean, I'm not.
The first study addressed the
With-
Albemarle growth and the Western
Exactly.
growth.
Albemarle, the Western and Grove.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
And that would not see in Albemarle High School anymore.
It's just, yes.
It was a logistical nightmare.
Yeah, this didn't go to, when I went back and looked, this that came out with the prices, because that was, when that was attached to Board Docs was the first time I'd seen it. Yeah, I know they include me in on emails, but I get included on every email that goes through. That only went to Dustin and Glenda. So Vicky had not seen that. It only went to them. So I had not had a chance to have all of them.
Convenient.
And we just had a decision we need to make and whether to want to.
Well,
I move to approve Leslie.
Well, I need to know.
Phase one and two.
Well, I need a point of clarification. Is Richard going to be included in this?
I think you just said it was.
I would include Ridgecrest.
It's not all
Yeah.
existing, so make sure that
So I'll amend my motion. I would move to approve the Mosley contract as presented in addition to adding the Ridgecrest School for the estimated $9,000 price. For a total of 105,
308.
308.
I have a motion to approve the phase one. The only change would be is that Ridgecrest School would be added to the list of schools that are under 180. It would change the price from 96,308 to 105,308. Do I have a second? Second. Any discussion?
are we going to allow remote votes today?
It's not true.
Yes.
We allow.
Policy.
You set a precedent last night.
We allow it. And
It's happened in my time on the board with multiple different members, including
I'm
those
just
in this
asking.
room. So I would absolutely
Yeah,
include the vote.
I don't have a problem with that.
If I can interject here, I'm actually going to ask the board to wait until I get back. So that way we can actually adhere to what the NFP government has requested that we do. Because they have advised that we should not be voting over the phone. So this was rushed to be done. I don't see how it's going to hurt a few more days to wait to be able to vote the way we're supposed to.
When did you say you needed to get started? Thursday.
I'd like to start Thursday.
Again, is that a motion?
Sure.
Table?
Your pleasure.
Yes, I guess she made a motion to table.
I made a
I didn't
motion.
understand.
Okay, so we already have a motion. We did, and you've amended. Well,
Yeah.
you really
We amended, so she wanted to-
right. But
Yeah.
you've added Ridgecrest to that. We were in the discussion phase.
Right.
So we've got to go back and handle this first.
So we're still in discussion. So, we did,
Seconded.
wait,
Yes. Mr.
yes,
Seth.
we're still in discussion. We did allow this the other day for Mr. Lifts to come back and vote in person. And we're not gonna allow it fall because we need this done by Thursday. So,
But we allow Mr. Lewis to make.
Who's our program?
Did we
Senior
have
expert
a
there.
second?
We don't have any.
I believe a motion.
why do we not have an attorney?
I believe a motion to table is a privileged motion which has to be heard, I believe. Oh, okay. Not-
Um,
You got a cheat sheet of
Yeah.
cards before, look it up.
Mhm.
Let's get an answer to the question real quick. And actually, she needs to put that in that. Needs to state that as what she's doing. I move to the table. As I remember, I could be wrong. It's not a privileged motion. You can't. And
I think, no, it's a privilege.
It's not.
I don't think it is. I think it's just.
it's not. It's not.
Sorry, I have to be privileged.
Yeah.
But,
So we're still in the discussion. Does anybody have any other discussion before we take a vote? We're good.
So we're not going to entertain the recommendations anyway. What's on the list?
I see this as differently because what we did with Mr. List, it was a 2-day thing there as far as hearings. This is something that the board's here to discuss. I just don't see that we have the time frame in order to be able to put that off.
Who's time frame?
I guess,
Right.
architects.
Put this on there.
It's your grant. It's your grant.
Right.
So that was grant time.
Those chairs are getting hot over there.
But we're taking it.
This is a lot of money, that the taxpayers
It's a lot of money.
that we're talking about here. So I don't take this lightly, number one. And number two, this is a big decision that I don't feel like we should be growing quickly. So since we're just now getting all this information, could have had it sooner than, but we're just now getting this information. I feel like we should not be forced to make a vote in such a quick manner, especially when we're talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I believe it was last week, board members received it, not today. Just a point of
Right.
clarification.
From last week.
Friday.
Yeah.
For the contract.
Right.
It was drawn up on March 31st.
Once again, we've had.
Are you making the decision that she's not allowed to come back over? I need to know.
I'm just saying that I think we need to take a vote today and move
Okay,
forward.
well then I feel the chair's decision to the assembly under policy 23, number 4. And that is debatable. It doesn't need a second. It cannot be amended. So, the call of voice vote.
Okay, can you just read that policy out and then that way I don't have to look at it?
I will get it for you. Give me 1 second. Actually, that's yours. But you
That
can,
we don't always do it. So that's, yeah.
so you're not gonna follow.
Well, I'm just saying, there are times we don't always follow other rules of order.
We're not gonna do that.
That's a true statement.
In our policy, you can appeal a decision of the chair
Right?
at any point in time, and it's like, it's ruling for the chairperson, motion to appeal the ruling for the chairperson. Person must be made at the first reasonable opportunity or explain it, and may not be amended. That's why I just asked you if you're ruling on the fact that she could not vote in person.
Well, she's
No,
here.
you're
She
not
heard
gonna vote
heard
in
the
person. That's
presentation.
not what
She has
that's
the
not what-
information.
She gets,
Let's make the vote.
what she's doing,
She can make a vote.
you're not the chair, and I didn't ask you. I have a question to the chair.
Go ahead.
So myself and the chair have.
Speak as well.
What's your question?
I asked if that was your ruling, and I, per our policy, asked that a voice vote be made to appeal to the assembly, which is this board, whether we're
To
gonna
postpone,
allow
is
this
that what you're
to
asking?
happen once she gets back in. Yes, that's what I'm asking.
So we can take a vote.
So we
on
take
that.
a vote on that.
One by one.
Yes, we'll need to, and then we'll go back to.
Okay.
You do that. And just-
Yeah, and then go back to the relaunch. Okay. So we're gonna go then, all those in favor of waiting, that's what you're asking, Carla, for us
Just
to wait
few days.
until Miss Almond can get back in town. When will it be, Miss Almond?
I can meet you on Monday.
If we look at a calendar, we couldn't even find a date to have work session. So I don't know how we would find a date.
I'm not here.
That's irrelevant.
It is.
Our question doesn't.
Okay.
it doesn't-
So
We
I just
already
wanted
had
to
a
see the
scheduled
window.
meeting that day.
Okay,
May
so we're gonna
21st.
take a vote then. Those who are willing to wait until Ms. Almond gets
Point
back
of
into town.
clarification there.
What'd you say? I'm sorry.
She said we found a date. I'm making a point of clarification, or point of information. We already had a scheduled meeting that day. 21st.
We had to come in early for a point of clarification.
Thank you.
Again, we'll try. If,
Well, we're
if,
gonna take this
if,
vote.
if this motion fails, then
We're gonna
Yeah.
go back.
Yes.
if
Correct.
this
Yeah.
motion passes, then we need to have a discussion on that. That's my
So
position.
we're gonna go back, then we're gonna take a vote that we will postpone this vote until Ms. Almond gets back into town at a later date. We will schedule that meeting later. All those in favor, I want you to raise your hand.
A division of the House, a division, a division
You
of
want
the
to know
House.
what? Okay, sorry, then, Mr. Lance.
But
Motion to what?
point of clarification, this is to allow us to
To wait.
allow
and
her
vote later.
comparison.
Right, allow her to vote later.
No, vote now.
Ms. Watson,
No.
Ms. Gibson, Ms. Popham.
Yes.
Yes.
But she should have a vote, but she should-
Well, Megan, I guess I want you to voice it. It's my motion, actually. Whether we wait for you to come back.
You're not. So either way,
Yeah.
Do you want to vote, Megan, or not?
Do you want to vote?
Do either yes, you want to vote, or no, you don't? Megan?
She doesn't understand it, so.
No. Megan, do you want to vote or not? If you don't, that's fine. We'll move on. If you do, then say your vote now.
yes.
Okay. So that's 3-3, and I'm gonna say no. So that, we're done with that. Okay, so we're back to the original motion. We have the motion, we have the second, we have had discussion, and now we're gonna take a vote on Mr. Lee's motion.
Amended motion.
Amended motion. I'm gonna restate the motion that we will approve phase 1 as it is listed, other than we will add Ridgecrest School under 1A. The price will change from $96,308 to $105,308. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, no.
Oh,
And I vote in favor, so the motion passes. Okay, let's move on. But next we have the loan.
The original motion had 1 and 2 in it. Yeah, it was amended over, okay.
The amendment just had Ridgecrest, correct?
Yes,
These lovely people.
and we're just starting at phase 1.
That's what,
That,
we gotta make sure when it was amended, if you want to do phase 1. it was amended to phase
That's all we voted on.
yes, that's what we voted on was phase 1. Yes.
I thought I heard it say phase 2.
Yeah, just phase 1 and that amount that I put. Okay. Do you have Mr. Miller? He is next.
And I know y'all will find this very interesting as well.
Yeah.
You guys are well raised. Yeah.
Oh, it's not. Does it come out of the public comment or TV?
Should come out.
Can you hear me, Mike?
Yes, I can.
Okay. You're fine.
Are we on?
You are now?
All right. Good evening, everyone. It's an exciting evening. Tom, share my screen.
Yeah, you share.
Okay.
We'll see how it keeps going.
See the up button? There you go.
Okay, thank you all for taking the time to listen to this. This was presented a few weeks ago, I believe. Nothing has changed since that presentation. What I'm going to do is go through the written report, and please interrupt me if you have any questions on a particular topic. I was charged to do a study focusing on high schools. Wrong one. No, I didn't. Oh, there. Focusing on high schools and trying to come up with scenarios that best utilize the capacity of the schools over the entire county. In the course of that, we developed 3 scenarios. One of them has 2 high schools, and the remaining scenarios have 3 high schools. The total capacity countywide for all of these scenarios is 3,000. The forecast that I'm currently using predicts 2,500 high school kids in the next 10 years. So I chose 3, not arbitrarily, but I chose 3,000 as an opportunity to kind of add some flexibility to accommodate growth, more growth than we anticipated in the West, and also to deal with any kind of adjustments that might be happening with the attendance lines. Well, first of all, let me describe the scenarios in short, and then we'll get into them in detail. The first scenario is with 2 high schools, capacity of 1,500 each. The location of the schools are mathematically sound to minimize transportation for the schools that are impacted, for the children that are impacted inside these attendance areas. The second scenario is 3 high schools. Once again, located. And neither of those 2 scenarios address issues I was having with the house. And so I made a third manual, I will call it scenario, with 3 high schools that tries to pull west or into Albemarle like it currently is. I'll mention here that this is really just a look at the high schools, just a look at the numbers, see what balance would look like in terms of utilization. There's enough information in these scenarios to determine whether feeder systems might work with these scenarios from elementary to middle and from middle to high as well. And we'll talk about that as each scenario. The slide you're looking at now, the page you're looking at now is it's called a heat map. It's a density map. It's not reflecting the number of students, it's reflecting how many students are in a particular area, unit area, I should say. And obviously, Albemarle is the highest density area in the entire county, followed by some clusters in the west. It's interesting to note, if you look at the higher density areas, Baden, Norwood, Locust, Albemarle, of course, they tend to be school related. Right? The school place to serve those children, whether chicken or the egg, who knows what happened first, but they're well placed in order to serve the populations that are dense there. Albemarle by far has the densest population. Even with the growth that we're seeing in the West, even though you might see significant numbers in there, the density due to zoning and other details probably will not match what Albemarle is, just because it's not the same place. But anyways, this is an interesting map. It'll kind of guide the locations of the target areas which we'll see a little bit later. First scenario, HS01. Was that a question?
No.
Oh, I'm hearing some echo maybe. Okay. The first scenario is once again with 2 high schools. Each of the high schools has capacity 1,500, total of 3,000, and they're optimally located so that they can serve students in their attendance area and minimize the transportation. That does not mean that there's not going to be long bus routes, but it's looking at the system as a whole. How can we minimize the transportation or the distance traveled, student burdens, transportation burden to each of the schools? And the interesting thing to note as you look at this map, those circles represent a general area where the school should be located. And in both cases, both circles, it's on top of an existing school. High School B, HSB, that you see on the map, is very close, or the center of it is very close to west. And HSA, the center is very close to Alabama. So the school locations that you already have are advantageous in serving the kids in this particular scenario. But these are 1,500 seat schools. They're not small. They're large and able to handle the capacity of or the students in the entire county. If you look at the table on the bottom, there's 3 tables like this. They're all figured the same. So it starts off with the existing schools, the existing capacities, the membership as of this year, and the utilization, which is simply students divided by how many seats you have in the school. Switching to a 2 high school scenario, the calculated membership is about 1,100 for high school A, that's the Alamo location, and about 1,000 for high school B, which is the west location. The utilizations are very close, within 4 points, and high school B is actually a little bit lower. There's a little more room to provide for expansion should unanticipated growth occur. As far as feeders go, this is just a kind of a back of the envelope calculation, but the numbers work. It's unlikely that you would be able to keep clean feeders in both the elementary to middle and the middle to high school situations without changing the capacity of middle and elementary schools. If the capacities were different, you could manufacture a scenario that a clean feeder pattern. But it's unlikely with the existing scenarios that would be able to happen. In addition, Norwood and Millingport and Stanley are very near the high school division line for this particular scenario. So it'd be difficult to try to split those populations up. Second scenario is again located to try to serve the students in their attendance area with minimal transportation burden. There's 3 schools at this time, each with capacity of 1,000, and just capacities are not recommendations. They're not fixed in stone. They're simply to give a uniform kind of foundation on how things work out. So you try to keep all the apples like apples so you can see what the true comparison is. In this case, the 3 schools have once again a fairly balanced utilization at the bottom of this table, table 2, ranging from 75 to 69. This time, high school A grabs 4 kids and it's utilized at 74%. Again, if these capacities are adjusted with a final plan, they don't have to be 1,000, 1,000, 1,000. You can stack more seats where you need them, or have the opportunity to add more seats should unanticipated growth come. And once again, in all 3 scenarios, spoiler alert, the feeder systems really depend on the capacities of the middle schools and the elementary schools. I'm not saying it can't work by juggling some lines, and we have the flexibility to do that in high schools, but it will be a challenge to make things work, especially since a lot of the schools, the elementary and middle school, are close to the division line for the high schools. Yes.
I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. So when you're saying with these plans that the feeders should be middle and distribute up the entire county to allow the feeders to these schools as well.
You're correct.
Thank you, sorry.
Okay, where was I? Oh, the one thing I will mention about this, and it occurs in the next scenario as well, is high school B, the circle HSB and HSC. They kind of split Albemarle north south. It is a intention to balance those schools with equal numbers in population. But it does, as a guy that's divided towns before with school lines, it's a tough thing to do. You have to be very careful. You have to be very sensitive to parents' input on this. It is it can be done. It has been done. It's a tough thing to do. So something to be aware of. And finally, as I mentioned, I was interested in seeing a scenario that allowed West to reach into Albemarle a little bit more. In the previous two scenarios, and I'll show the maps in a moment, but in the previous two scenarios, Albemarle was fairly secluded to the west. We know there's going to be growth there. That's not the problem. But I wanted to see if there was something that resembles what West does today. So what I did was I used the existing locations of west, south, and north as three new high schools, increasing the capacity of those schools to 1,000 apiece. So in every scenario, the overall capacity is 3,000 to see what would happen. And I think the telling tale here is looking down at the table where West is now popping up at 86%. It's the message to me is that West is well suited and can be have sufficient capacity to deal with the growth in West, but it stretches it if you try to grab portions of Albemarle, especially southern Albemarle, where we're seeing some of the growth potential. So these are not balanced utilizations. The scenarios was not designed to do that in this particular case. But that's the takeaway from that one. And once again, feeders will probably rely on dealing with the capacities of elementary and middle schools, and certainly trading supplies. I will make one more comment. There's one scenario with two high schools. There's two scenarios with three high schools. What you all have for four high schools is exactly where it should be. North, maybe a little bit north, but it's right on the money in terms of the other three schools in serving the overall county equitably. North could probably draw into Albemarle a little bit more. That's the only situation I see. But the locations of the schools are near optimal. I have a closing remark here, but are there any comments on the three scenarios?
I have a question. Under the conclusions for the two high school scenario, you mentioned in here that scenario one seems to have some advantages in terms of overall utilization and maintaining feeders for both schools, assuming middle and elementary capacities are adjusted. So it seems like I'm interpreting it correctly that that's less redistricting to the high schools. So if you went to 4 to 2 in that scenario, that's the least impact to the students and the families.
I give that a measure. Yes, simply because you're dealing with two schools rather than more than two schools. There are schools on the boundary of the high school lines that will have to be in some way either bending the high school line or bending the middle line. Yes, like if you have a big old 1,500 kid high school, that's really covering, pretty much all of west, for example, and the others pretty much covering all of north, as an example, you're probably not going to have to move too many lines, because they're already in the right school for the scenario.
Okay.
But there will be some movement near the, tree line. This comment is, about clean feeder patterns, because it's a rather complicated kind of thing, when discussing these things. And in the last 6 years, the membership in Stanley County Schools has been divided in the following way: about 47% for elementary kids, 23% in grade 6, and 30% for high school kids. And that's a fairly constant kind of ratio. I use something similar all the time. And it changes when you have things like COVID, and it changes when you have a recession. But generally speaking, that's a pretty good rule of thumb. Currently, with the capacities, not counting mobiles in Stanley County Schools, your capacity profile is very close to that. You're at 48%, 24%, and 28%. So there's no glaring discrepancies countywide. That doesn't mean some schools are not counted and some are underutilized, but countywide, it paints a very good picture of planning, for past boards and for past planners. So you're on the right track in terms of overall, how the share should work out. Well, we know there's growth coming, and the thing is, when you have growth in the west, as an example, or south of Alabama, as an example, you add an elementary school, that profile is shot, because now you're adding a lot more seats at one level, and it may grow into it, but it's out of balance. So, it's more mathematical thing, but it's what I see today is very suitable for the county, and, well done.
I go back to the comment that you made about the 4 high schools and just kind of reiterate that. You're basically just saying that if we would continue to be a 4 high school town, that those schools have been strategically placed and they are in good locations. That doesn't mean district lines don't need to be shifted in order to try to populate them somewhere near the right amount of students so they would all kind of be together, but it just means that they are in good locations.
That is correct, yes. And just to follow up on that, your countywide capacity total for high schools is 2,905. So the numbers I was using were 2,000. So not too much different. But you're correct in pointing out it's not just the numbers of the buildings, it's the lines. Yeah. So you would have to adjust them significantly to make balance. Oh, yes.
So let me clarify. You're saying right now with the 4 high schools, we have a capacity of 2,105 seats.
That's the data that I have. That's correct.
These most of them you're only 1,000 seats total.
That's right.
So less than 100. Okay.
Well, to give you an idea, to clarify that, the month for 2024-25, there was a grand total of about 2,200 high school kids. Forecast predicts a little over 2,500 in the next 10 years, from growth to the high schools, but more importantly, from growth from younger grades that are trickling up. So there's a lot of growth potential going on there.
And where is that growth at?
Pardon?
Where is the growth in your study that you know? Is that in the western end and in Alabama?
primarily, mostly, the data that we have is mostly for the West. Yeah, the developments that we tagged in our land use study, they may be now more proper, but the students are in different districts. So that's something to keep in mind.
Any other questions from Mr. Miller? I appreciate you going over this several times now with us.
It's my job.
Thank you, Mike.
You're welcome. Thank you all. Have a good evening.
You too.
I think you're able to see, get a good, you know, yes. From his information and your information. Right, right. I feel like we're headed in the right direction. And getting the information we need, not only to supply to our county commissioners, but also to have what we need in order to be ready for the next grant application.
The hardest thing would be to believe the data.
Right.
To do it, and to make the database decision. It's so much.
Right. Okay. Nothing else on that, are we good?
Us on the code, I live on 153. Right now, we're using the second floor. Second floor of Albemarle is our standard early college. So you look at those capacity numbers for Albemarle, you can have 150 kids today. So percentage of capacity goes up as well. Not here's depending out on this, so you have to have real data to make these decisions. Given this scenario, any one of these other scenarios, where are those kids going to go? Because there's no more room in college, according to the college people, for expanding our college.
We did talk about possibilities of what it looked like on their campus with some different, whole bunch of different stuff done going on. And right now, it's not feasible.
That's exactly what I'm getting.
So I guess what we're asking is that early college go away, is that, I mean, because that there was not a place for them to.
We're used to college games.
Yeah,
States.
right.
Not dog in college, so that's not.
We would have to look at the capacity, the different solutions. Be something we'd have to really dig into.
Why was that not already included if we're running and
Why was it 153 students not included in these? We don't know.
It was a transfer issue. And
Well, he's got the numbers.
It's included. It should be
in the forecast. Yeah.
Well,
But
it's not included in that spreadsheet.
It's not.
I kept keeping up 2188 versus 20, whatever it is. It's 153 kids as of this year. I mean, next year's different. Let's just keep in mind, our two top performing schools are the early college.
Absolutely.
Stanley.
Yes.
So in my mind, those important to observe.
Very important.
And when we have conversations about other programs, STEM programs is very important.
Yeah.
Well, 12, I think the entire state was get rated as a STEM. I want to clear up what I said because nobody knows what I'm talking about.
Okay, if there's not anything else, then we're gonna need to go into closed session. For that, once we take a motion to do that, the public will need to leave. We actually are gonna do a closed session, we'll come back in our second meeting session, and we'll adjourn. So I'm gonna be convening at our meeting at 6:15.
Megan, did you say something?
It tells you acquisition of real property. We're gonna go ahead and do personnel here instead of doing it at our 6:15 meeting.
Okay.
So I'm going to entertain a motion for the closed session for acquisition of real property under General Statute 143/18/005, personnel matters, General Statute 143/1136, and attorney client matters. General Statute 143/1183. Second.